Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Straight Like That on KTSU2 The Voice. I am your host, Tramel Jeffers, aka The Cheesehead. And alongside of me, I have the best crew in town, the best crew in Houston, Texas. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
It's your boy Tyus McAfee, host of the All Scoring and No Defense podcast.
Hey, my name is Tyra Lockley, also the Cheesehead.
Please stay tuned because we have some interesting topics. So stay with us and let's get ready to start this show. And our first topic is March Madness, of course. And I like to call it March Sadness because it's been nothing but sadness for me and nothing but pain and hurt for me this March. Because all of my favorite players in college basketball are no longer in the tournament anymore. Luka Garza over there in Iowa, he's no longer in the tournament. His team got upset by Oregon in the round of 32, but he went out swinging. He finished with 36 points. So I'm so proud of him. And then my guys over there in Illinois, Ayu Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn, those guys lost in the round of 32 to Chicago Loyola, another team in their state. So those guys are no longer in the tournament. And then Cade Cunningham, they also got upset in the round of 32 by Oregon State. I didn't see that coming. So, yeah, I'm a little bit sad. Most of my favorite players are gone. And this is like the first year where I've really just watched college basketball on a daily basis, where I've watched it more than the NBA. Normally, I've been a casual fan, but this year I took it up a bigger notch. And these guys really mean a lot to me, so it was sad watching them exit. But I want to start off with the biggest upset in the first two rounds so far. What are your biggest upsets? I want to know yours, Tyra, and I want to know yours, Tyus. Then I'll give you all mine.
I'm going to go with my first one is Oral Roberts beating Ohio State. I don't think anyone saw that one coming.
Right.
And, and the second one is it Loyola Chicago?
Yeah, Loyola Chicago.
When they beat Illinois, I just felt so bad because the star player for Illinois, he had that picture up referencing Drake almost type stuff.
It was the Kobe.
Yeah, the Kobe. Yep. Ayu Dosunmu. Yeah.
Yep, representing Kobe, and then for them to lose against Loyola Chicago, that's like, ooh.
As the number one seed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mine is also Illinois. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it. Well, this whole March Madness has been crazy due to the fact that most of the top 25 teams have been taken out by,
teams we knew nothing about.
Exactly. And I don't know what Sister Jean is doing, what prayer she's doing, but it worked almost every time.
Yep.
This is crazy because Zima did that in 2018. When who'd they beat?
I can't remember exactly who they beat, but I know they got to the Final Four that year.
And they predicting Loyola to do it again. So I don't know. This is going to be interesting. But that was probably my biggest surprise. When I looked at that, I said, what? And then I think Michigan, too. When they got, did Michigan?
No, Michigan's still in it.
Okay,
Yeah, Michigan is still in it.
It was one other team I forgot that they had that got beat, but it was that Illinois was probably my biggest one.
I'm gonna go with Texas versus Abilene.
Oh,
and you know what's crazy? I actually called that. I said it in my Twitter chat the day before the game. I said Abilene Christian is gonna beat Texas in the round of 64, but the reason it's my biggest upset is because the way the game went, I didn't expect it. I thought if Abilene Christian was going to upset Texas, it would probably be a high-scoring game, maybe in the high 60s, low 70s, but it didn't even get to the 60s. It was in the low 50s, 52-51. And the way Texas just lost the game, it was just unacceptable. 23 turnovers. They held Abilene Christian at one point to 6 minutes without scoring. And in that span, they only put up 4 points. So they didn't take advantage of their opportunities. They didn't put Abilene Christian away. And when you let teams that are superior to you, inferior to you, when you leave them in the game, they're going to take advantage and they're most likely going to come back and they're going to bite you and beat you. And that's exactly what happened at the end of the game.
And wasn't Texas the school that messed up everybody's bracket?
First, it was Ohio State.
Yes.
It was Ohio
And
State.
it was Texas.
Then it was
second.
Texas,
Yeah.
yes. So both of those teams messed up my bracket. But Abilene Christian, they're a great basketball team. I love their conference. They play some good schools over there. You got Stephen F. Austin in their conference, Sam Houston, Nicholls State, and they ended up winning their conference tournament, and they got into the tournament, and they upset Texas. But unfortunately, they lost in the next round to UCLA. But that's my biggest upset. I just didn't see the game ending in the low 50s. I did see them upsetting Texas. I wouldn't have been surprised, but the way that the game went, I just didn't see that coming. So Abilene Christian, that's my biggest upset of the tournament. Now, the next question is, who is your biggest surprise team that is in the Sweet 16? We've got 2 rounds that have passed already. So who are your 2 surprise teams, or who is your surprise team that's in the tournament now in the Sweet 16?
Well, I don't think that they've been, but USC. I've watched a lot of USC basketball. Yeah, I grew up watching at USC football, basketball. You know, that's my school from back home. So I haven't seen them in the tournament for a long time. So seeing them actually make it this far and possibly the Final Four is really a surprise for me. LA's been doing a good job with sports this year, so I'm just hoping that they can continue on with that.
That's a good pick because in the preseason, USC was picked to finish 8th in their conference. So they weren't even picked a top 5 team in their conference. And now they're in the Sweet 16 with the Mobley brothers. Evan Mobley, he's going to be a top 5 pick next year. Well, this coming draft, probably top 3. One of the best big men in college basketball right now. So he's got USC over there balling. And like you said, possible trip to the Final Four or the Elite 8 first. But they could still get to the Final Four. So that's a good pick. I like that, USC. Tyus, what you got?
I'm going to have to go with Oral Roberts only because I didn't even know Oral Roberts was a college. When I saw that, I'm like, where in the world is that? Where is Oral Roberts at?
I don't even know where it's
That's
located.
what I was like.
I knew of them, but I just didn't know where they were located.
And then they don't even have a player on their roster averaging more than 22 points. So to hear that and then that they're in the Sweet 16, that just shows you how they're playing team ball. And this also shows you that in basketball, I think probably in other than any other sport, that as long as you come ready to play, you can beat anybody. And then that's what March Madness has showed. All it is just one game. So if you're not on your A game, then more than likely you're going to get sent home. But Oral Roberts, I have to say, is my biggest surprise because I didn't know nothing about this college before this tournament at all.
Yeah, they're definitely a surprise team. They're not my number 1 surprise team, but they're definitely probably number 2 because I watched them play during the regular season. They're a good team. They finished 4th in their conference, and they're a mid-major school, so I didn't expect them to beat Ohio State. But once they beat Ohio State, I knew there was an opportunity for them to beat Florida because Florida is known this year to be inconsistent. They look good at times, and then sometimes they just look really bad. And that's exactly what happened. Oral Roberts kept it close, and they beat Florida, and they advanced to the Sweet 16. But my surprise team that is still in the dance, that's in the Sweet 16, is Oregon State.
Oh,
This team wasn't even supposed to be in the tournament. We're talking about a team that was average 10-10. Wait, first let's go back to November or back to October when all the articles were being written about the preseason predictions. This team was picked to finish last in the Pac-12. They were picked to finish last in their conference. And the highest that they were picked to finish was second to last. So it was them and it was Washington State. Both of those teams were projected to finish last. And Oregon State actually finished in 5th place in the conference. They were 10-10. And the only way they can get in the tournament is if they won their conference tournament. And they did that. They beat the number 4 seed, UCLA. They beat them in the first round. Second round, they beat the number 1 seed in their conference, Oregon. They upsetted them. And then in the championship game, they beat another good team that's still that was in the dance, Colorado. Colorado was second place in the conference, and they beat them in the conference championship. So they beat 3 teams that made it to the NCAA tournament during their conference tournament. And then you go to the NCAA tournament, round of 64. They beat the number 5 seed, Tennessee. They beat the Tennessee Volunteers by 14, 70-56. And then in the second round, a lot of people had high hopes for Oklahoma State because of Cade Cunningham. A lot of people had Oklahoma State in their Final Four, and they upset Oklahoma State, beating them 80-70. So they're winning their games handily, and now they're in the Sweet 16. So we're talking about a team that was projected to finish last and that wasn't even supposed to be in this tournament. So that is my surprise team that is still in the Sweet 16 right now, Oregon State. I didn't see this coming at all. But we had a great episode today. We talked about a lot of things, and we'll be back next week. So you all stay tuned for another episode of Straight Like That on KTSU2, The Voice.